All right, so you know how when you think like card readings, your brain just kind of automatically goes to tarot?
Yeah.
Like that's just the default for so many people.
It is.
But get this, there's actually this whole other system out there, and it is super fascinating. It's called Lenormand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got like this really cool down-to-earth feel, like it's very grounded. It's got a really, really interesting history, and it gives you a totally different perspective than tarot does.
I think a lot of people will be surprised by that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for anyone listening who's like, okay, I'm intrigued. I want like the need-to-know info, but I don't want to have to like wade through a ton of books. That is what we're doing today.
That's what we're here for.
That's what this whole deep dive is about.
Yeah, for this deep dive, we've got like everything. We've got beginner guides. We've got like the really in-depth historical stuff about Lenormand, all that good stuff.
We went deep.
We did.
And the whole point is so that you come away from this with a solid understanding of where the system came from and, even more importantly, how its approach to understanding different situations is so unique and so valuable.
It really is powerful stuff.
All right, so I think we just got to jump right into the history.
Let's do it.
Because this is where things get a little like twisty-turny.
Yeah.
Lenormand, right?
Yeah.
You hear that name and you instantly think of this like famous French fortune teller, Marie-Anne Adelaide Lenormand.
Of course.
She was basically like a rock star of divination back in the day.
Pretty much.
She even advised Napoleon, didn't she?
She did, yeah. So Marie-Anne Lenormand was active like late 18th, early 19th centuries. And yeah, she was a total celebrity as a diviner. She was like the real deal.
Oh.
Had a super prominent clientele.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the stories about her predicting Napoleon's downfall, those are super famous.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and her fame just like really solidified the idea of powerful fortune telling in the French imagination.
Like, that's what everyone thinks of. You say French fortune teller, and that's who comes to mind.
Exactly.
Okay, so the Lenormand deck that everyone uses now, that's like her baby, right?
Right. You would think so.
Like she created it.
That's where it gets interesting, though.
Oh.
The 36-card deck that we use and that we call like the Petit Lenormand has her name.
Right.
But the evidence actually shows that she probably didn't invent these symbols.
Really?
And might not have even used them.
What?
So it seems like the name Lenormand got attached to a bunch of different card reading methods after she died.
Oh, so they were just like capitalizing on her name recognition.
Pretty much like using her fame.
That's kind of wild.
It is.
Okay, so then where did this deck even come from?
So if we go back a little further, the Lenormand system actually evolved from an older French playing card game. So using cards for insight in that region actually goes back way longer than just Marie-Anne Lenormand.
Interesting.
And get this, different parts of Europe, including Germany, they all had their own versions of these old card games.
Wow.
And sometimes the card meanings were different. The number of cards in the deck was different.
So many variations.
All over the place.
That is so interesting.
It is really cool.
So it's not like one person just like sat down and was like, boom, divination system.
Nope, not at all.
It was way more of like a gradual evolution.
Exactly.
All right, so now I have to know who actually created the deck then.
Okay, so the 36-card Petit Lenormand deck that like pretty much everybody uses now,
Yeah.
the design is actually credited to this German businessman named Johann Caspar Hechtel.
Oh, wow.
And it was originally called the Game of Hope.
So the deck that's named after this like celebrated French fortune teller actually has German roots.
Yeah.
And it was just like a fun game.
I know, right?
That is mind-blowing.
It's crazy.
So when did this Game of Hope or like the Lenormand system become like a divination tool?
So those old card games we were talking about, those go back centuries.
Yeah.
But the Petit Lenormand that we know today, that really gained popularity in France a couple of centuries ago.
Okay.
And it's actually having like a major comeback right now.
I feel like I am seeing it everywhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. And you mentioned all those different like schools of thought in Europe.
Right.
Does that mean that the cards were interpreted differently in different places?
Yeah, totally. Because of those roots in different regional card games, you do see different interpretations of the cards. And even, like I said, different numbers of cards used in different parts of Europe.
Right.
Like Germany, France, it was all different.
So it wasn't like this standardized system from the get-go.
No, it was super fluid and like constantly evolving.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's really cool.
Okay, so we've got this like surprisingly complex history down.
Uh-huh.
Now, for those of us who maybe know a little bit about tarot, what are the biggest differences with Lenormand?
That's a great question.
Like, how does it actually work?
So if you're familiar with tarot, one of the first things you'll notice is that Lenormand cards don't have reversals.
No reversals.
Yep. So in tarot, like if a card is upright or reversed, that can completely change the meaning.
Right.
But in Lenormand, the positive, negative, and neutral aspects are all just built into the meaning of each card.
So you don't have to worry about flipping them the wrong way.
Exactly.
Okay, so can you give me an example?
Sure. So let's take the Sun card.
Okay.
In Lenormand, that
Eh.
pretty much always means something good.
Makes sense.
But in tarot, if you get a reverse Sun card,
Yeah.
they could be negative, like maybe you're being too optimistic about something.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, big difference.
That's a really good example.
Thanks.
Okay, so that's one big difference. What else is different?
Another huge difference is how you read the cards.
Uh-huh.
So with Lenormand, you usually read them in a spread, like they're forming a sentence or telling a short story.
Okay.
So you're looking at the sequence of the cards to get like a clear message.
Gotcha.
And this is different from tarot, where you're really focusing on the individual meaning of each card based on where it is in the
Right,
spread.
like in the Celtic cross.
Exactly.
Okay, so Lenormand is less about the deep symbolism of each card and more about how they work together.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so it's more like getting a narrative of what might happen.
Exactly.
All right, so what about the deck itself?
Okay, so the standard Petit Lenormand deck has 36 cards.
36, okay.
And each card has this like really clear picture on it,
Okay.
like an anchor, flowers, a snake,
Yeah.
a tower, things like that.
Oh, cool.
And then along with the picture, you've got a name for the card printed on it, a number. Sometimes there's this little symbol called a glyph. And then there's also an inset playing card symbol.
So like Queen of Hearts or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. That's a lot on one little card.
It is, yeah.
And you said there's also a bigger deck?
Yeah, there's this 54-card deck called the Grand Lenormand,
Okay.
but pretty much everyone uses the 36-card Petit Lenormand, especially here in the U.S. And that's what we're focusing on today.
Gotcha.
It's definitely the most popular.
Okay, so all these symbols that are on the cards,
Right.
those are like the words and the sentences that you were talking about.
Exactly.
Can you give me a few examples of how the associations work?
Of course. So let's start with the ship card.
Okay, the ship card.
So that one usually represents travel or a journey.
Okay.
And it can mean that whatever you're asking about, it's going to move along at a steady pace.
Okay.
But it might take a while to reach its destination, like we're talking weeks or months here.
Oh, so not a quick fix.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, what about another one?
So then you have the rider card,
Okay.
which has this image of someone moving really quickly.
Okay.
And that one usually means things are going to develop fast and you need to act quickly.
Oh, wow. So it's like the opposite of the ship.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, what else?
Then there's the stork card, which can mean a pause, a waiting period, or like a change that's about to happen.
Okay.
And then there's the mountain card, which represents obstacles and delays, like things are not really moving forward.
Oh, no.
And then you have the house card, which is usually about home security and long-term foundations.
Okay.
Lots of different meanings.
Yeah, so they all have their own little stories? Are there any other cards that really show how literal Lenormand is?
Yeah, for sure. So the key card usually means a solution or like a really important realization.
Uh-huh.
Like you're going to find the answers you're looking for.
Oh, and that's a good one.
And then the fish card, that one's pretty straightforward. It's about money or abundance.
Money, money.
Always a popular topic.
That's for sure.
The star card, that one's about hope, guidance, and achievement.
Positive vibes.
Definitely. And even the suits from the playing cards have general meanings too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so clubs sometimes mean challenges or work stuff.
Uh-huh.
And spades often mean news or something like sharp or decisive.
Okay.
Lots of different layers.
Yeah, so you can read just a few cards together like a mini sentence.
Right.
But you also mentioned this bigger spread, the Grand Tableau.
Yes.
What's the idea behind that one?
Okay, so the Grand Tableau is where Lenormand can get really, really detailed.
Okay.
You lay out all 36 cards in a big grid. Usually it's 4 rows of 9 cards.
Wow.
And it's way more holistic than smaller spreads.
Yeah.
It gives you like this huge overview of all the different areas of your life.
So like a big picture view.
Exactly. Like instead of looking at just a couple trees, you're looking at the whole forest.
Gotcha.
And with the Grand Tableau, you're reading how all the cards interact with each other. And it creates this complex story with tons of connected themes.
So it sounds a little intimidating?
It can be at first.
Yeah, but it gets easier.
Oh, yeah, totally. With practice, it becomes super intuitive, and it's especially helpful for getting a sense of what's going on in your life overall, or for asking about specific events in the future with like a lot of detail.
So you can really get deep with the Grand Tableau.
Yeah, you can really go there.
Okay, so we've got the history, we know how Lenormand's different from tarot, and we have basic idea of how the cards work.
Yep.
What are some like key concepts to keep in mind if you want to actually do Lenormand readings?
Great question.
What are the basics?
One of the most important concepts, especially when you're using the Grand Tableau, is the significator.
The significator.
Yeah, and that's the card that represents the person you're doing the reading for,
Okay.
or yourself if you're reading for yourself.
Right.
And it's like the central point in the spread, like when you look at a map and it says, you are here.
I get it. Yeah.
So traditionally you use the man card for a man, the woman card for a woman.
Makes sense.
Keeps it simple.
So once you've found the significator card in the spread, what do you do next?
So one of the first things you do is look at the cards that are right next to the significator,
Okay.
like the ones to the left, right, above, and below.
But like it's neighbors.
Exactly. And those cards often show the most immediate influences on the person, like the energies and the people who are impacting them the most.
Okay.
But beyond just looking at the cards right next to it,
Yeah.
there's some more advanced techniques you can use
Oh, cool.
to get even deeper insights.
Like what?
So one of them is called mirroring.
Mirroring.
Yeah.
What is that?
So with mirroring, you basically imagine lines that divide the Grand Tableau grid both vertically and horizontally. And then you look at the pairs of cards that would be opposite each other if you folded the spread along those lines.
Oh, interesting.
And those mirrored cards can show you hidden connections or underlying themes, or even how different parts of the person's life are like reflecting each other.
So like if one card is about their career and the mirrored card is about their family, it means those two things are connected.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's so cool.
it is.
Can you give me like a more specific example?
Sure. So let's say the heart card shows up near the significator.
Okay.
And then the card that's mirrored vertically across the center of the spread is the rider card.
Okay.
That could mean a new love interest is coming into the picture.
Ooh la la.
And if the horizontally mirrored card is the garden card, that could mean they're going to meet this person in a social setting or through their community.
So it's like seeing echoes across the spread.
Yeah, it's like finding these hidden patterns.
I love that.
It's really neat.
Okay, so what about that other technique you mentioned, knighting?
Yes, knighting.
What's that one about?
So it gets its name from how a knight moves in chess.
Okay.
Like in an L shape.
Right.
2 steps in one direction and then 1 step at a right angle.
Gotcha.
So when you do this in the Grand Tableau, you're looking for cards that are positioned in that L shape around the significator.
Okay.
And those knighted cards can show you influences that are more indirect or even hidden.
Ooh, sneaky.
Right.
Okay, so let's go back to the heart card example.
Okay.
If the snake card and the mountain card are like knighting the heart card, what does that mean?
That could mean there are some hidden challenges or obstacles in that new relationship.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so knighting can point to some things you might not see coming.
So basically, proximity shows us what's happening right now, mirroring shows us the reflections, and knighting shows us the secrets.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to remember it.
So how do you actually put it all together in a Grand Tableau?
So in addition to all that, you can also look at the cards in the same rows, columns, and even diagonals in relation to the significator. And the row where the significator is, that often gives you a timeline of the person's journey.
Oh, interesting.
So the cards to the left represent the past, the significator card is the present, and the cards to the right hint at what might happen in the future.
So it's like a little life story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the column that the significator is in that can highlight the main issues or energies that are happening in the person's life right now.
Okay.
And the diagonals can sometimes show you unconscious influences that are at play.
So many different ways to look at it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So the Grand Tableau really does give you this multi-layered perspective.
It does. It's like a puzzle.
And there are even more ways to connect the cards, right?
Oh, yeah, there are tons of techniques.
Tell me about some of them.
Okay, so for example, you can look at knitting patterns.
Knitting,
Yeah.
like with yarn.
Well, kind of. So it's
Yeah.
using those same L-shaped connections from knighting.
Right.
But this time you're looking for cause and effect relationships between different areas of the spread.
Okay, so give me an example.
Let's say we're using the woman card as the significator
Right.
and the bear card, which represents security.
Okay.
That card is knitted to the heart card, which is love.
Okay.
And then the heart card is knitted to either the coffin card, which is an ending,
Oh.
or the clover card, which is good fortune.
Ooh. Okay, so two very different possibilities.
Right. So that could mean that her focus on security in relationships could either lead to heartbreak or a really lucky outcome in love.
And then the other cards around those would give you more context.
Exactly. Yeah, it all fits together.
That's so cool how it all connects.
It is really cool.
Okay, so mirroring can also tell you how the person asking the question sees themselves in the situation, right?
Yeah, that's a really important point.
How does that work?
So you pay attention to the mirrored cards, especially the horizontal reflections.
Okay.
And those can often give you a sense of the person's self-perception.
So like how they see themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for example, let's say we're using the man card as the significator.
Okay.
And he's mirrored by the sun card, which can represent past achievements and pride.
Uh-huh.
But then he's also mirrored by the coffin card, which represents feeling stuck or like things are ending.
Okay.
So that could mean there's this contrast between how he views his past successes and how he's feeling in the present.
Oh, wow. That's really insightful.
Yeah, mirroring can reveal a lot about someone's inner world.
So the Grand Tableau really is like a complete map of everything.
It is. And the significator is your starting point.
Okay.
The cards that are closest to it and the ones that form specific patterns around it, those are the strongest influences.
Gotcha.
But all 36 cards are there, representing all the different parts of life.
Right.
And the patterns in the spread are like mirrors of the patterns in the person's life.
That's so poetic.
It is kind of beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah. And a lot of readers think of the upper cards as representing conscious things and the lower cards as representing unconscious things.
Okay.
And the left to right flow, or sometimes right to left, shows how things unfold over time.
Wow. We have gone so deep on Lenormand today.
We have. It's been a journey.
We started with the history, which was so much more complicated than I think either of us expected.
I know, right?
We learned all about its roots in old card games and that totally unexpected German parlor game origin.
Mm-hmm. Who knew?
And then, of course, there's Marie-Anne Lenormand.
Yeah, the OG.
Even though she probably didn't actually invent the deck we use today.
Right.
Her name is all over it, though.
For sure.
We also talked about the main principles of Lenormand and how that literal sentence-based style is so different from the symbolism of tarot.
Big time.
And then we even learned about some of the techniques you can use to read the cards.
We did.
Like the significator and mirroring and knighting.
So much good stuff.
This has been amazing.
I know. It's been a really great deep dive.
So as you're listening to all this,
Right.
think about how the directness of Lenormand,
Uh-huh.
this oracle system that's based on everyday images,
Yeah.
how that might give you a different and maybe more clear perspective on whatever questions you have,
Totally.
compared to other forms of divination that are more about looking inward.
It's a totally different approach.
And it's so crazy to think that a system that can give you such detailed insights might have started as just a game.
I know, right?
So wild.
It's pretty incredible.
Okay, so if this whole deep dive into Lenormand has like totally sparked your curiosity,
Yeah.
and you want to learn more about this fascinating world of oracle card reading,
Yes.
we want to invite you to schedule a personal session with an experienced reader.
That's a great idea.
You can find more info and book an appointment at https://divineminddivination.com.
A great resource.
It is so, check it out.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been fun.
Always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Until next time.
See ya.